Good evening, and welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. Shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, Mike Ward. Week 7, 2021 season. Our Gridiron Heroes traveled out to Los Angeles to take on the Rams and our friend, our buddy, Matt Stafford. So this one is different. Because right off the top, thank you for listening. If you're watching later, that's great. If you enjoy it, please do me a favor, give me a review, give me a rating. That stuff always helps. I hope that this one we're all on the same page. We might not be, and so one of the things, like, I like to mention the other Lions fans that I talk to. So in this podcast, you'll hear me mention different people, some Lion fans, some not. It is always with one thing in mind. The first 2 years of this podcast felt very much like all me, which I was fine with. The idea of what I think of the game, what I think of the team, I find it interesting. You might not, uh, but I thought it serves two purposes. One, it gives people um, um, the idea, the facts, the reality that I talk to a lot of people, right? And I don't want this podcast to just be me saying this is what I think, this is how I feel, because I'm not that fan. I'm not that dude, right? Well, I hate that dude. You guys know this. That's dumbass Dan, the guy who thinks he knows everything and always gets it and is always right. I'm not that guy. I understand very clearly my perspective of this football team is unique and different, neither right or wrong, because it's not about that, but it's different. It's the reason I thought a podcast might be fun to do. But at the same time, it is also what really, after the first year, I thought it can't just be all me. So today I'm going to mention a number of people who I text throughout the game or sent me stuff. And so the final was 28-19 Rams. This, in my opinion, was a good game. This, in my opinion, was, if there's such a thing as a good loss, this is it. This is the most complete game the Lions have played all year. This is a game, at the end of the day, about talent. They played well for a good portion of this game, and well being defined as whatever your capability is, 100% of your capability, with the key phrase being your capability based on the talent you have. This is the best they've played all year. They fought hard. They were tough. They were all the things we talk about, right? Fact is, the Rams are better. It's not that complicated. I talked before the game, and very early in the game, obviously you saw them try some things, right? That's and my friend Chris, the Packer fan who lives in Michigan, who is a Packer fan, right? Doesn't hate the Lions, revels in the Lions being the Lions more than anything. Sent me a text, and it just said not SOL. And I was like, brilliant. You're right. And I wish there were so many other people, because when we get to social media, I'm sure I'm going to see the same nonsense. I don't know. We'll see. But my point there is talent supersedes everything else. When their talent catches up to the fight and the grit and the effort, this is going to be a good football team. I think that watching Matthew Stafford play in that offense with those plays, with those receivers, wow, right? Even the hardest had to get rid of Stafford. He never won. He never did anything. If that guy watched the game that day, somewhere deep inside, he'll never admit it, because those people don't admit that stuff. Man, the arm talent alone. We watch golf now, so we see a bunch of check downs. We see balls fluttering, right? I don't know why he and I'm a golf guy, by the way. I have to put that disclaimer out, because it's real easy to jump on the thing. Oh, let's bash golf. I'm not bashing golf. I actually like golf. I think golf played well today. I think both his interceptions were not his fault, and that's not even cornbread. I think if you are objective and you watch the game, but watching Matthew Stafford, he doesn't have to dink and dunk. Golf has to dink and dunk because he doesn't have receivers like Cooper Kupp. He doesn't have plays in his offensive scheme like what they have. He has to do that. Guys aren't open. He has to do that. Now, the reality is there are throws Matthew Stafford can't make. No, that Matthew Stafford can make that Jared Goff couldn't make on his best day. And guess what? there are probably 27 other dudes in the league that I would say the same thing about. His arm talent, and this is not going to turn into a Stafford festival as much as I would like it to. Matthew Stafford's arm talent, even right now, and he is having a career year in completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns. He's playing his best football right now. That's for all the people who are like, it's time to move on. Stafford or never, whatever. The statement they should have been making was, until they put more talent around him, Stafford will never be able to play to his best. He's in a position now where there's talent around him and we see what he is. Now, none of that is me saying we shouldn't have traded him. 100% agree with the trade. Best for everybody. I will never badmouth that trade. But when you see that arm talent, the throws he can make, and he dropped some dimes today that, and it doesn't matter because it would have never been that way here. So forget that. I thought Goff played well overall. He made a couple of bad decisions. Like on the interception late when it was 25-19, the Lions had a long drive and they're going in to potentially take a 26-25 lead, middle of the fourth. I think he should have checked down, which is odd because we criticize him all the time for that. And I'm saying on that play, he had DeAndre Swift in the flat. And I think that's the play he should have made. That's the play I wish he would have made instead of trying to go in the end zone for Hockenson. But that's not what really happened on that play, right? What that play really was is talent. I keep talking about talent, and I'm going to talk about talent a lot. This is a game we can measure them, right? This is the first time they played a relatively complete game. This is who I think they are. I think they will play below themselves like they've done 3 of the 6 games before. I think the other games, the other team's just better. Today was the best game they've played. And I think why did they lose? First and foremost, Rams have more talent. They just do. Now, DeAndre Swift is a superstar. Sorry, I'm making that statement now. I don't know if I'm the first one, but I'm jumping. If he stays healthy, DeAndre Swift is a superstar. He's Alvin Kamara, right? He's leading all running backs in the league with catches. I think you got to just find ways to get the ball in his hands. I'm kind of all over the place in the intro. So let's dial it back. Here's the thing. They have guys like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. And the biggest play of the game was not Goff messing up, was not the Lions making a mistake. It wasn't even so much the offensive line, right? Aaron Donald, the best defensive player in the game, hit Goff as he's throwing. And then Jalen Ramsey, the best corner, probably the second best defensive player in the game, makes a great play. That's what happens. Players make plays. Playmakers make plays. They have probably the 2 best defensive players in football on the same defense. And oh, by the way, they have number 9. We don't. We don't have an Aaron Donald. We damn sure don't have a Jalen Ramsey. And we no longer have number 9. And if you want to be honest, the 3 best players on the field today, add Cooper Kupp. The 4 best players on the field today all wore Ram jerseys. Swift played really well. I don't know if that's true. I have him on my fantasy team too. So that's pretty good. But the reality is players make plays. And Donald made a play. Donald and Ramsey made a play on the same play. And number 9 made plays all day. Cooper Kupp made plays all day. That's just talent. That's one team is really talented and the other is not. And all the effort and grit and trickery and all that stuff, you're not going to beat a good team when they play well. When they've got number 9 and he does what he did, and I don't even know what it was, 330 and 3 touchdowns, just whenever they needed a play, Stafford made a throw. And you're just not going to beat him. So you can be mad about that. I'm not. I think you have to be a reasonable person and you should come into this game. You should have come into this game today with expectations, right? And when you see that in the middle of the fourth quarter, the Lions are driving in Ram territory with an opportunity to potentially take the lead, you should have been cool. You should have been after last week's performance. Now, the reality is what you should have known was that even if the Lions were scored and gave Stafford 4 minutes, Stafford was going to drive down, kick a field goal. They were going to lose anyway. So a lot of it is about, there's no disappointment in me today. I'm almost encouraged. It's a weird feeling that there was a part of me that thought they could get smoked. This could be ugly. And then as the game's going on, I still see the sloppiness. I see the penalties at the wrong time. I still see that we have no talent in our secondary. And when I say no talent, I am not trying to insult guys that are playing. I'm not. It's talent. And my encouragement is that I think Brad Holmes is really good at his job. When the talent catches up to the culture, to the fight, to what Dan Campbell's doing, I would tell you that I think Dan Campbell's a good coach right now. I still need more data, right? A good coach, because he is getting a lot out of very, very little. He is getting a lot out of very, very little. So, all right, we're going to jump in. I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the value of a loss, talk a little bit about coaching decisions, and then do some social media because people were hitting me before the game even ended. So I figure I'll jump over there, hit a couple of those and see what's going on. So the value of a loss is a term that in this game, there's 4 scenarios, right? There is a good win. There is actually something called a bad win. There's a good loss and a bad loss. And sometimes I like to say, this is what this is. This is a good loss by every measure. This is one of the best teams in the league. This is a team a lot of people, including myself, think will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And you just played with them. Played with them is what I mean. Played close to them competitively, right? So that says something. The Rams weren't sloppy. Rams didn't make a bunch of mistakes. They did. Now, did you use some trickery and potentially get lucky a couple? Sure, but good teams do that. Good teams make their own luck. Did you make some decisions that you probably shouldn't have made that could have cost you something? Sure, but that's a coach learning his job. That is players that are really backups who are starting. They're a practice squad player starting for us right now. So factor in all that. Be really, really conscious of the reality that level of your football team is such that they have to do stuff like that. They have to try things like that. They have to pull things out of a hat sometimes because the talent isn't there. The talent doesn't match. So when you go on the road against one of the best teams in the league and you acquit yourself well, which I contend they did today. And if you disagree with me, that's cool. I contend they acquitted themselves well against a really good team. That matters. It matters because of how poorly you played last week, right? You couldn't come out and lay another egg. You couldn't come out and stink up the joint again. You had to show growth is the word I want to use. You had to show that you could go back, look at film, correct some stuff, and play better, right? This is a statement about Campbell to me. I'm not saying this is who he is and we should baseline this is who he is. This is a data point. This is an important point that how they played today, they played with the Rams today. And I'm going to get to his mistakes in the coaching decision part. And he made some. They made some. But we still see the sloppy stuff, right? They left points out on the field. And that is, you saw communication disconnects Swift and Goff. I think there was a play with Goff and maybe might have been Khalif Raymond. But you see those miscommunications and disconnects. Those aren't going away, by the way. That's going to be all year because you have a young team that is deficient in talent because Stafford and Cooper Kupp don't disconnect. Stafford and Higbee don't disconnect. That's talent, right? And none of this is to bash Jacobs, who made some plays today. He didn't make some plays today too, or AJ Parker or Darryl Worley, because they might be good dudes. I don't know them. It's never meant disrespectful. They all might be good dudes, but I know Jalen Ramsey's better than all of them, right? Today is really a testament to those guys. I actually am complimenting those guys because today, for the most part, they played their butts off against a really great offense. And the Rams kind of did what they wanted. But, I mean, if you can say, honestly, on the road against a potential Super Bowl team, you're in the game with 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left, that's a statement. With the talent gap being what it is, that is a statement. And those guys played their butts off today. And I won't ignore the fight anymore. I think last week I said something about I'm tired of hearing the they played hard thing. I think there's value in that. I think there's, these losses hurt. They hurt them, not me. I think last week hurt differently because you played really badly. You played really, really poorly last week. And I think that one stung. And you needed to come out and like I said, you needed to come out and acquit yourself much better. Show your coaching staff, show the fans, show the owner, show other teams. We're not the team that just crapped the bed at home against Cincinnati. You had to come out and show what you're capable of being when you play at the top of your ceiling, whatever your ceiling is. And we can debate the ceiling. The Rams ceiling is much higher than the Lions ceiling. That's the talent thing again. But they played as close to their ceiling today as they have played. And I think when the talent catches up to the effort culture, they're gonna win some games. They're gonna win some games. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that's later this year. I'm not even saying it's next year, although it could be next year. Could be, depending on how they utilize their cap space and their draft capital. It very well could be next year. I doubt it, but it could be. But when that happens, it's gonna be a good football team, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see games like today because after last week there was a bad taste. This game encouraged me in that there's something there. Like when the talent match, just think about it. Think about it like this: if they add, say, 2 free agents, and that's conservative number, and 4 players in the draft, the 2 1s and the 3, that's 6 players. That's 6 players that should be upgrades. If that's a corner and a safety, a linebacker, and another linebacker, right? And maybe a wide receiver and a guard. Think about it. How much better are they if you add a big-time playmaking wide receiver to this offense? And they're going to draft top 5, almost certainly. If they add a big-time wide receiver to this draft, a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type. That's an upgrade, right? Let's say they speed linebacker with the 2 1s, a wide receiver and a speed linebacker. Maybe they sign a free agent corner. That's the kind of thing you have to think. You can evaluate right now what's happening to the team, see where they are, see if Derek Barnes is playing better, see if Nate Sewell more comfortable. I'm fine with Sewell. I think he'll be fine on either side. It doesn't matter. That's a sports talk video topic. Sewell's going to be fine wherever they play him. All right. So I think that there is value in this game. There's value in this. There's the best way to put it is they can take this film. They can go study some things they did right. Last week in film study, I guarantee you all they did was look at the stuff they did wrong. And I'm sure it was painful. This week, look at some things they did right. They can work on stuff and put some stuff in their lessons learned database and say, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to do it. And if I hate to mention it, I hate to be the guy, but if you think about all the people that are out, they're going to add a Pro Bowl center next year. They're going to add a really good left tackle still this year. They're going to add a speed receiver in Tyrell Williams, even if he's not a 1. These are well, maybe they won't. Maybe he won't play again. But you're going to add Romeo back. You're going to add Akuda and Melifonwu. No matter what you think of them, all due respect, they're better than AJ Parker and Jerry Jacobs. They just are. So there's value in this loss. There's something you take away. And there are fans who won't, because that's how they are. So let's talk about coaching, right? Because I'm also watching very closely coaching decisions in the game. There is some stuff you can say about Dan Campbell relative to getting fight out of the team. And that's a big deal. And it's important. And I'll bring it up. I'll mention it. But then there's also game day decisions. Decisions you make in the game, how do they impact your ability to win or lose the game? I can't find anyone where I would say he cost them the game today. And there are those who would say, like my brother, who immediately texted me, he didn't like the 4th down call. I'd probably take the field goal. At the time, I want to say it was, I don't remember the score. Don't remember the score. 17-16. Yeah, they would have went up 19-17 at the time. And this is, I don't know, midway in the 3rd quarter. I'd probably take the field goal because I would rather be ahead than behind. And that's it. You got to do trickery, right? You got an onside kick and 2 fake punts. You got to do stuff like that when the talent discrepancy is this big. When you don't have the talent, you have to be creative and find ways. But I think you have to find a balance. You can't go for every 4th down. And sometimes there's 3 points right in front of you. Just take the 3 points. right? We did this a few weeks ago, and he came to his press conference and said, I get it. I get it. And the next week, he took the points. 19-17 on the road in the third quarter. I probably kick the field goal, go up 19-17, and then see what happens. In the grand scheme, it might not matter. It probably wouldn't have mattered, quite frankly. It's probably more important that Dan Campbell is still implementing a culture. He's still instituting a culture. And that culture is an aggressive one. It is saying, we're not scared. We are going to go and fight. This is kneecaps, right? What you're seeing is kneecaps. This is what he was talking about. And players love it. Players eat it up. Players view that as he's confident in us that we can go make plays. Now, they didn't make the play. On third or fourth down, they did not make the play. Different deal. I think that's an execution. One of them, they had a guard pulling. I don't think he got out fast enough. There's some technical things that if you look at the all 22s, you can see it. I don't have access to that, but my problem with it was they hurried up. When they didn't get it on third down, they rushed to the line and tried to run another dive. I would have preferred, even if you don't call a timeout, because I don't think he handled his timeouts well today either. But what I would have preferred is you huddle up, think about what you're trying to do, call a play you've had success, actually get Jamal Williams on the field. I need a yard. I want to run. I love DeAndre Swift. I already said he's a superstar. I love the running back room totally. Jamal Williams is a good compliment to DeAndre Swift. And if I need a yard, I want number 30 with the ball. I'll throw the ball to 32 a bunch of times. If I need a yard, I'm giving it to Jamal Williams. That's I have no problem with the idea of going for it on fourth, but I think huddle up, get Jamal Williams, and maybe even get a big package. They hadn't stopped him. I don't think it stopped Jamal Williams on a run all day. This goes to the culture. I don't agree with the hurry up from third to fourth down. I don't disagree with the idea of going for it. Although if I'm there at that moment, to be honest, I'd probably take the field goal. He's trying to show confidence. That's him being him. And I don't want him to not be him. So I'm going to live with that. I'm going to live with these turnover on downs because they're going to happen because he's going to keep going for it on fourth down. He doesn't care. He really doesn't. He believes in it. I think that the going forward on fourth down thing is something we need to live with. It's part of who he is. You could view it as emotional decision-making. And I'm certain there's a degree of that to it in the midst of the game. I wouldn't compare coaching an NFL team to Madden, except I'm about to right now. There is the moment you're there. What happens is you say, I've got a play that can get me a yard. I know I've got a play that can give me a yard, and getting this yard and getting a first down right here, that is what I need to do. You don't think about the other side. You don't think about the consequences of not getting it. Or you briefly do and you go, that's fine, we'll step up. But everything in your mind says, I've got a play that I can get a yard. I'm going to get my yard. I'm going to get that yard because I got a play where I can get that yard. And he believes in him. And when he calls it in and says, go for it, the players hear, wow, he believes in us. Now, when you're missing a Pro Bowl center and you're starting left tackle, you got to understand the guys you have on your line. And Brown and Nelson are probably good dudes. I have no idea. This is not meant to say anything negative about them. If Ragnow and Decker are in there and Sewell's on the right, because Jonah Jackson is playing better, I like it more. I still say when we nitpick, and that's what we do. I try not to do it that much on the podcast, but it's hard not to because hindsight, 2020 and all that. I'll probably take the 3, but if I'm dead set on going, I have a traditional huddle and I get Jamal Williams in. That's how I'm not going to criticize going for it. I don't like to hurry up. And I didn't like the fact that Jamal Williams wasn't on the field. That's probably what I would say. I think there were some issues, and I don't know who it is, but they had a delay of game one time, and at least once they had to call a timeout to avoid a delay of game. I don't know if that's Goff. I don't know if that's Anthony Lynn. I don't know if that's the technology and the headset. That can't happen more than once a game. One time I'll buy. I think they had 3 of those because I think once they came out of a spike situation and got a delay. So I think it might have been 2 delays and a timeout. You got to clean that up. And that's on the coaches. It might be the OC. Whoever's calling a play into Goff's helmet, it might be that person. Maybe it's Goff taking too long. Maybe it's a substitution thing. I don't know. I'm struggling with that. That you got to clean up. That's sloppy. That's communication. That's a problem. Penalties. Um, that's not really a coach's fault. I'm gonna leave that one off the coaches. So the trickery, right? The onside kick, you can get away with that once. It worked. I can't complain about it. It's in the first quarter. You're up 7-0. No real complaints. I mean, even if it hadn't worked, I would have gotten what they were trying to do. The first fake punt was easy. That was a great play call. Nobody expected it. And Jack Fox made a fantastic throw. Second one was even easier. The formation, the defensive formation made that an easy call. There was nobody on the left side, and CJ Moore took that ball and he was off to the races. So sometimes Dave Phipp is the special teams coordinator. Now we know who that guy is. Congratulations, Dave Phipp. 7 weeks, you're on the podcast. People probably didn't know your name. Now they do. I mean, a handful of people do. I don't mind that. You can't get away with that every week. You can't do that again for another month. If then, I think you can't rely on trickery and gadgets. You can't. You won't. I think you ran the ball well. You utilized DeAndre Swift really well. So Anthony Lynn, all in all, I like what you did. Play calling. I didn't like the 1 4th down. For the most part, I like what Aaron Glenn is doing with what he has. You have to just be honest and say Romeo is probably your best pass rusher, and you're missing. No matter what you think of them, they're 2 best corners. I don't love Oruwariye. I like Melifonwu better. I think Okudah and Melifonwu added to this makes their secondary better. And I think those guys are going to come back. They're both still young. You're going to add at least one more, and that room, barring injury, could get really good really fast. I am still someone who thinks Okudah has something there. So I don't think Aaron Glenn called a bad game necessarily, considering who they were playing. And when you look and say Stafford had 3-something and 3 touchdowns and Cooper Kupp had, you might want to say, well, the defense played horribly. The defense kept them in a game. They were in a game. They just needed to make a play on offense. That interception in the end zone, I mean, that was everything. I still contend Stafford would have came down, got a field goal, and they would have lost. But you got to convert there. And I believe he should have checked down. Of all things I'm criticizing Goff about, he didn't check down. Something might have been going on with the route there too. There were 2 guys too close to each other in that route tree, but I don't know. All in all, I think the coaches were up and down. So if we were doing the who do you blame for the loss game, I don't even know if I'd play that game. I think this was a good loss. This is a loss that should build some character. This was a loss that gets the horrible taste of Cincinnati out of your mouth. I think this was a game that I had no problem with. There's no big issues coming out of this to me. At least I didn't think so. So coaching decisions were a little bit interesting. I don't know that they cost. I would have taken that field goal, but I don't know if they did anything that cost the game. I just think the better team won. Today I talk about losing versus getting beat. They got beat today. They got beat by a better team, a more talented team. And in the crunch time, their best players, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and Matthew Stafford made plays. And that's what happens. When one team is vastly better than the other, that's what happens. All right, let's go to social media. We're gonna go to the Lions Facebook page and just pull some posts. This is where some of these people get weird though, and freestyling this is probably a bad idea. So I'm gonna apologize up front. Oh boy! All right, we're gonna do it though. All right. Nope. Okay. All right. So we got Cal. Apparently, Cal's from Hamtramck. Cal Hamtramck. Okay. This kind of losing could ultimately build character and weed out the riffraff, both in talent and mentality. They are building something. It takes time and patience. I'm fine with that. Riffraff is a wonderful term. Well done, Cal. I'm going to have to incorporate riffraff into my everyday vernacular. So I think there's a case that could be made for that. I might have touched on that a little bit earlier about this being a good loss. I think you have to figure it out. It takes steps to figure out how to beat good teams. Last week, this time I would have said they can't beat bad teams. Cincinnati might be better than I thought. I might have gotten okey doke by the Bengals last week. They might be better than I thought. So it's tough to see it when they're 0-7. In the midst of all this losing, it's hard to find that silver lining and go, okay, I see it. I see it. I'm trying hard. I am eating mountains of cornbread and drinking jugs of Kool-Aid, trying to find it. And DeAndre Swift, he's a superstar. He's a superstar. I still love Hawkinson. I like Jamal Williams, right? Yeah, it gets dicey. After that, it gets dicey. And that's a talent thing. And these guys aren't bad. Sewell's going to be good. Ragnall's a Pro Bowler when he comes back. Decker's a good player. I like Romeo a lot. I like Brockers, what he's bringing. I think Austin Bryant. I've seen some Austin Bryant sightings. He's starting to step up. So there's guys, right, that are playing. Linebacker Barnes has some potential. I can't say much about the secondary. Tracy Walker can hit, and that's it. I don't know if he's. Yeah. All right. We're not going to break down everybody, right? I think there's something to what Cal's saying about building character by losing. You have to get there. I think I would prefer to say add some talent because what you see with this lack of talent is mistakes and sloppy play. And there are penalties that are caused by talent gaps. There are missed assignments that blow plays up. Goff and Swift disconnected. I don't know. There's a big play late in the game. Feels like Goff expected Swift to do like a hook and sit down, and Swift started to drift, so the ball was off target. Today was kind of easy though, right? You should not have woken up with the expectation that they were going to win the game today, right? So you watch the game. This shouldn't have been heart-wrenching disappointment. I don't even think my brother Kenny is broken up about this one. I think there were some plays that he thought, we left those out there. He would say it in much stronger terms. but we all felt that, right? But I think today you should have watched the game with a sense of, when they get some talent, if they play at this level, when they get some talent, they're going to be, imagine what this team could be, right? Because on the other side of the field today, you saw what a good team looks like. You saw what a talent-rich team looks like, right? And it's also a statement about Dan Campbell, And another thing it is, by the way, it's for the dumbass Dans of the world. I wonder how they're feeling. Well, you know what? I'll probably find out in a minute. Has to be a test for their sensibilities because Stafford looks so good. Stafford looks so good. And I don't mean good like his arm is his arm. In the last 2 years doing this podcast, I talked incessantly about his arm talent. Every now and then he would make a bonehead decision, and I would generally excuse that because I think that was rooted in he loved his own arm. Today, you see why. He dropped dimes. And they say stuff. And Sanchez was just glowing. And the national media loves him now because he's not wearing our uniform. He's in Los Angeles. He's with Sean McVay. But even all the nonsense, his arm is so good. He just makes throws. And sometimes he makes it look easy, right? We know he's tough as nails and all that, But the dumbass Dans of the world are going to say, oh, why didn't he do that here? Like Stafford could have done that here. And they'll probably switch it around and then blame Sheila, right? Because that's what they do. They find some way to blame it on someone with the last name of Ford. So it's cool. I mean, those guys were begging for him to get, I'm sorry, I'm jumping down the dumbass Dan rabbit hole. I know. They were begging for him to get traded last year. They wanted so badly to quote unquote move on from Stafford. And make no mistake, I eventually got on board and they executed a phenomenal trade. In 2 years, we'll like it a lot more than we do now. But I also appreciate his talent and the guy, right? He and Kelly were good representatives of that organization, of the city, everything they did. I just never understood when he was here what all the hate was about, what the vitriol was about. And now I certainly don't understand because the rest of the world is seeing and you can go back. My podcasts are recorded. They're timestamped. You can go literally 2 years ago, probably almost to the day. I spent 40 minutes on a podcast asking dumbass Dan, why do we hate Stafford? Why can't you love this guy? And I think that was the season where he was having a career year and he got hurt. But until he got hurt against the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken, he was having a career year and they were probably 3-4 or 4-3 or whatever. Guys were calling in saying, but he's never won a playoff game. He's never done anything. He's just Pat Stafford. Man. I don't know. And I used to always say, I did a long speech and I said, listen, I don't care what you think. Some people are just idiots, in my opinion. I had a segment in my old podcast called Stafford. And I would always say the same thing. I am an unapologetic Matthew Stafford fan. I still am. Still am. He is the rare exception of a guy who leaves my team and I still like him. I hope he does well and I'm rooting for him. And dumbass Dan, please save you're not a real fan. You should want them to lose so our draft pick is better. You're an idiot. The Rams are a really good team, and that pick is going to be in the high 20s, somewhere 28 to 30. Just deal with that. And oh, by the way, there's a lot more than 28 good players in the draft. Brad Holmes will find a really good player at 28 or 30. So stop being an idiot. I've heard that nonsense before. All right, we got to get off those guys. I'm sorry. I jumped down the dumbass Dan rabbit hole. It happens. Nope, not doing that one. Jarrett, that's good. I like this. How much of this belongs on the ledger of Bob Quinn? I like that, Jarrett. I like what you're doing there because we got a new regime, right? But there are people still there. And it takes some time to dismantle something that was, how can I be polite? An unmitigated disaster. Is that too harsh? Maybe. You have to dismantle that and build something up, right? So we have to appreciate that Brad Holmes and the crew inherited a hot mess. I want to use stronger language. I don't know why I'm against swear. I can cuss on my own podcast. I'm not doing it though. Nope. Trying to be better. Gotta be better. Quintricia left a mess. The point is a talent mess, contract mess, and honestly, a culture mess. They didn't like Matt Patricia. They didn't. The environment wasn't good. They left a mess. And they were trying to get talent to fit a system that wasn't working, a system that sucked. And they drafted guys like Jelani Tavai, Jared Davis, and even worse, the contract signings. Like the Vitae contract is hurting us. And when I talk about contracts, so I'm not saying Vitae is a bad player, right? Halapul Vitae. I think I got it right. I'm not saying Jamie Collins Jamie Collins didn't fit. Trey Flowers. I like Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers is hurt a lot though. And there's a ratio. The contract number over productivity. And all three of the guys I named, Vitae, Jamie Collins Sr., and Trey Flowers. Flowers, not as much of the talent-wise. It's the productivity because of injury. But none of those guys' contracts match their productivity. That's what kills you. When you're spending money on free agents and they're not producing, that's all Bob Quinn. I don't have as big a problem with his drafts. It's a mixed bag. I could go through his drafts and give you some good and some bad. Like, I'm going to try and do this from memory. 2017 would have been Jarrett Davis, Tease Tabor, and Kenny Galladay, amongst others. I think Reeves Maven might have been in that draft too. I think Jamal Agnew might have been in that draft. That draft is all about Tease Tabor. That's just it. I didn't think Jarrett Davis never reached the potential they thought. And by all accounts, you have to say he was not. It was a bust for where they took him. He's no longer on the team. Tease Tabor is the spotlight of that draft. Galladay stayed injured and didn't really want to be here, and now he's in New York. I don't think Tease Tabor is in the league. Reeves Maben is on the team, special teams, getting some run at linebacker now. I think Agnew's in Jacksonville. The 2017 draft, it's really Tease Tabor. You got nothing with your second round pick. And you sat down at the press conference and said, I watch more tape on this guy than anybody I've ever scouted. You can't make those kinds of statements. And that one hurt. 2018, that would have been Ragnow, Carry-On, no longer with the team. Tracy Walker still here, starting safety. Deshaun Hand, Tyrell Crosby still with the team, and I think they drafted a fullback late. Yes. No, you got a Pro Bowl center and a starting safety and a backup lineman in Crosby. Mixed bag. Can't say that's a great draft, Can't say it's horrible. You got a Pro Bowl center out of it, right? 19 is Hawkinson, Austin Bryant, Oruwariye, right? I don't remember the other guys. They drafted a corner out of Toledo later. I don't remember. They had some later picks, but Hawkinson, Pro Bowl tight end. Austin Bryant starting to make some progress. And I'm down on Oruwariye. He could bounce back and be better than I think. I try not to talk about him too much. I have not been happy with his play. And it's just me. I could be seeing things or not seeing things that matter. And then last year, you had Akuda, Swift, Julian, Jonah Jackson. I think Penasini was in that draft. That's a good draft. His 20 draft wasn't horrible. Well, Jeff Akuda is the whole thing, right? Love DeAndre Swift. Julian's growing on me. Jonah Jackson's growing on me. At starting left guard, I think Logan Stenberg is still on the roster as a backup guard. And Penasini might be hurt, but he gets reps, right? If Jeff Akuda ever becomes anything, that ends up being a good draft. So you got this mixed bag. You can never ignore the Tease Tabor, right? And Jeff Akuda might always be part of it, but all that was to simply say Bob Quinn didn't do us any favors. Bob Quinn didn't do Brad Holmes any favors. And I have said throughout this podcast, talent deficiency. I called the other team a talent-rich team, right? Yeah. So, all right, one more. Nope, not doing that one. Jerry, why are you always bashing other fans? You claim to be a Lions fan, and all you do is talk shit about other fans. Oh, we got to do this one. Really, Jerry? Jerry says, why are you always bashing other fans? You claim to be a Lions fan, and all you do is talk shit about other fans. Okay. We're going to stay cool. First of all, that is not all I do. That is not all I do. I spend the bulk of the time breaking down the game, performances, how the game was won or lost, key decisions, key plays, key performances. So if you actually listen and you suggesting you do when you say I'm always bashing other fans, I don't bash other fans, right? What I do is I bring up other perspectives, other fans. Sometimes it's my brother Kenny. Sometimes I talk about my Packer fan Chris or my Lions fan Art. I talk about other people because I believe that there is value in other perspectives than mine. I think that makes me a better fan. I think it makes me a better podcaster. I think it makes the podcast better if it's more than just me talking about me. I do this segment to talk about Cal and Jared and even you, right? I just complimented the other two guys who posted stuff because their posts made sense. Their posts were cool. You're an idiot, right? Because you either don't listen and you're saying something, or you listen and you only hear what you want to hear. Both of those, in my opinion, make you an idiot. And I don't even care if you listen anymore. It doesn't matter. And if your goal is, let's see if I can piss them off, check. Congratulations. You win the prize behind door number 2. The real purpose is, I believe that the way I see the game is different and unique than a lot of people. There are a bunch of fans who love this team just as much as I do, that are qualified to do a podcast just as much as I am. And if they wanted to, they could do it. It ain't that hard, right? I believe, for me, you blame this on my producer. This is all Mike Ward's fault. We're talking at work one day, and I'm breaking down a preseason game 2 years ago, and he said, bro, you should do a podcast. That's interesting stuff. The way you see the game is very interesting. Would you like to do a podcast? And I was like, I don't know what that is. What? And he was like, let's do it. And that's why he gets a shout out at the beginning of every single podcast, whether he produces it or not. That's why he will always get a shout out, because this was his idea. He started this. And once he hooked me, and I thought, wait, what? That thing that I do after every game anyway, where I sit and break the game down and try and figure out why they won and lost and evaluate their drafts. And wait, what? We want to do that? Yeah, let's do it. Right. And the real idea of other people's opinions, I don't bring up my brother just to shout out my brother. Love my brother very much. That's my man. I bring it up because his opinion is different than mine. So I want to juxtapose my opinion against his. My friend Chris, who lives in Michigan, gets Lion stuff jammed at him all day, but he's a Packer fan. That is interesting to me. His perspective is interesting. My friend Art, closest person to me, very cerebral, thinks this through, very, very important. My cousins, Daryl, Chuck, I shout out everybody. They all bring different opinions. And I think, I can juxtapose my cornbread and Kool-Aid opinion against theirs. And if you want to, just like you just did, Jerry, you can hit me on, you can post some nonsense on my Twitter feed like you did. and you can get called out. And I'll tell you what I think of your opinion. You might not like it. It's okay. I didn't want this podcast to be my singular opinion anymore. I did that for the first 2 years and I decided this can be better. I want to share other opinions. And oftentimes it's the dumbass Dans, probably like you, who I want to juxtapose it against. To me, it's like storytelling, right? I read this thing about podcasting and they said, look, fancy yourself as the protagonist of your podcast. This is my podcast, my opinion. This isn't the most popular podcast in the world. I got a few people that really like it, and that's cool. But if I'm telling a story of how I feel about today's game, this team in general, my fandom since I was 8, I am the protagonist of this podcast. I need an antagonist. Dumbass Dan, and that's a guy who 2 years ago wrote the dumbest post ever, and Mike and I had no choice but to rip him. His name was Dan. And now we just named people like Jerry Dumbass Dan, because you either didn't listen to an entire podcast, you listened and ignored all the good stuff I said, picked out one thing you didn't like. And yes, I will always bring up these people because there's a lot of them. Now, I will also say there are a lot of people, some listen, some don't, that think a lot like me. Their team, they're more team centric. We love our team. We want them to win. We're not trying to get coaches fired. We don't call the guy on the radio every afternoon and go, they're idiots. The Fords need to sell the team, blah, blah, blah. I want to hear that. I want to hear that. That's a dumbass Dan thing. And yes, did I need an antagonist from our podcast? Yep. I had a better podcast when I get to yell at some guy who says something stupid, even though the guy doesn't know me, doesn't care, right? But there's a bunch of fans out there. Some of them send me notes on Facebook. Some of them post on Twitter. They're smart. They're insightful. And if they send me something and say, hey, what do you think of this? I'll mention them. I bring those up all the time. I just did 2 of them right before you. But there's also a lot of dumbass Dans. And I can't help, but I can't. If I just looked at 6 posts, right? And yours came up. And you're not the traditional dumbass Dan, but the idea of, and for those who don't know, the idea, dumbass Dan is not a person necessarily. Dumbass Dan is a lifestyle. Dumbass Dan is a way of thinking. He's not just a dumbass Dan as a fan of the Lions. He's dumbass Dan every day in his life. Everything he does. But as it relates to the Lions, he's the guy who says, same old Lions. And ignores the data that suggests it's different. This was not same old Lions. This was not. They had an onside kick in the first quarter and they faked 2 punts. They've never done that. That is the opposite of same old Lions. He's the guy who says they're cursed. They say stuff like that. Or I'm Lions free. And then he comments about the game. Lions free is supposedly these people who just said, I'm done with the Lions and they don't watch them anymore. Except they're always calling the radio station, bitching about the coach and the team and the owners. They're liars. Right? They say the Lions can't win as long as the Fords on the team. There's no data or anything that makes any sense that could support that ridiculous notion. But dumbass Dan will tell you that. What that really is, it's called root for radio. Those are the things that you have to say when you call the radio, so they'll put you on the air. They're not going to put me on the air. Put that guy on the air 10 times out of 10 because they're trying to get ratings. I'm not mad at them. That's what they do. Dumbass Dan is that dude who coached his son's little league team, so he thinks he understands the wide 9. Right? He knows the Lions linemen should be scraping and doing twist games, and he'll drop all these cute little sayings to try and get you to believe he's smart. I can't stand those guys. Jerry, you're an idiot. Don't post on my feed anymore. I'm gonna wrap this up. I think we get our win next week, guys. I think that if we can get the effort we got today, next week, Philadelphia, we can get our win. I was worried about when it would come. I still think there's 3 or 4 wins on the schedule. I never thought dumbass Dan says 0-17 right now, by the way. I believe there's wins on the schedule. The team that played today can win 3 games, 4 games, maybe. I think they can win in Philly. I think they can probably beat Denver and Atlanta. I still contend week 18 won't matter to the Packers, and we might get one there. There's wins, and it doesn't matter because dumbass Dan now is going to say, keep losing to get the draft pick. So you can't win with those people. But yeah, today was I think it was a good loss. And I know people don't agree with me. I don't think my brother agrees with me. And that's fine. I think there's some stuff I take out of this game that make me feel good. I think there's some positives the Lions can take out of this game, and I'm actually looking forward to next week now. I think this could be the one. So, yeah, let's wrap up there. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I jumped down some rabbit holes. Dumbass Dan can do that to me. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know at Cornbread Pod on Twitter, Facebook page, obviously Cornbread and Kool-Aid Podcast. I hope everyone stays safe, and it's going to start getting cold. But I need you to listen for a Wednesday podcast that's going to be all about the game. 6 days from now in East Lansing, Michigan, there's a game, and it matters. It matters a lot, and that should be fun. So I've been threatening to do this for a while, to do a non-Lions one. I really want to let the Pistons and the Red Wings get into their seasons, get more data, see what they could be. But I've been focused on these two college football teams, targeting this Saturday. It's big. And I think right now the ratings are 6 and 8, maybe. I would like to tell you I'm going to be nonpartisan, except I'm not. I will try and be objective during the podcast, maybe. But I think it's worth a Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. So we're going to do the game Wednesday. Look for that one if you're a fan of either school. I mean, those other guys won't like me, and that's okay. I'm going to try and be objective. I'm not going to do a deal where I'm bashing anybody, right? I'm going to try and literally just talk about the teams, what I see from each team, and how I think the game has the potential to go. So look for that. And then, of course, next Sunday, after we get our first win against Philly, come back. I'll have a better vibe, I'm sure, and I won't be jumping down the dumbass Dan rabbit hole. So everybody have a good night. Have a good week. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.